Okay, now let's talk seriously. How to elevate your artwork to the next level? I want you to listen to me carefully, because it's really important things, and in this video I will not talking about technical aspects of digital art, but the things behind this. The foundation of good art doesn't even matter whether digital or traditional art we are talking about are fundamental rules. To create good art, we must follow them. Before we start creating something, we need references. This is the first step towards the good art. Especially if you're a beginner, you don't have a lot of experience, references will help you to create your artwork and teach your visual experience. In time you will be able to do some things based on your experience and without references, but teach yourself to collect references before and in the progress of the work. It's a distinguished feature of professional artists. For reference collection I usually use PREF, free-to-use software that can help you to gather all images into one file. Use them on the second monitor or overall window if you have only one monitor. Also, if you don't have a couple of monitors, possible to save all references into one PNG and drop this file into the Blender. Open the image editor and then pin this file in Blender. I use this way because I have only one large 32-inch monitor and it's more convenient for me. So, you have references and start doing some artwork in Blender, Photoshop, Cinema 4D, Maya, whatever software you use for work, doesn't matter. The next important rule that you must follow to achieve amazing artwork – composition. The foundation of good art is composition. You can ignore some technical points in the work, maybe don't even know how to do something, but the basic principle of composition must always be remembered. Memorize and apply them on the basic level. As a building of house is impossible without a solid foundation, good art cannot exist without proper composition. Study the techniques used by other artists to learn composition. Look more closely at the art and try to analyze its composition on your own. Also, in the traditional art education process, it's acceptable to make a copy of other artists, but not a simple copy. By doing this, try to understand the art. Find some artworks that you like, analyze and try to recreate this art. It's a good practice to study the best artworks. So, another important point comes from the previous one, and this also relates to composition. Scale and proportions. Everything in your scene should correspond to the same scale, and all the objects in the scene should interact with each other based on the acceptable scale. Okay, so if I have a road, I have a cart in the scene, and I'm gonna put cart somewhere here, then it must fit visually to the scale of the scene. If I move the cart closer to the camera, we can see that it's not going to pass here. It's much larger than it should be. Visually we can see this only after comparing some noticeable scales in the scene. And 3D graphics is a good tool for that, because we can move objects across the scene and see if they have a relevant scale compared to the scene proportions. In general, I recommend always start working with a hero object, which will be a landmark for the main scale. Usually this is a human model. Maybe just a cube, it's not so important. You must understand that you have a 1 meter object and bring your scene to this size, because we are more used to associate everything with real life objects. It can be anything, but always check the scale with the hero object to be within the same scale in your scene. I often see the common problem when some artist tries to make an environment of enormous world. You know, these giant walls are like these examples. In this case, the scale should also be respected. And by the way, in such situations, a person conveys an understanding of a vast scale, as we can see. Our brain understands that it's something enormous, because such well-known object size like human give a hint about this right scale. Also, don't be mindless to scale object. For example, if I scale this tree that's big enough to cover my foreground so nicely, look what it looks like if I pull human models here. Leaves the size of the head. I don't think that is correct. So when you're walking, it's always necessary to observe the scale of the scene and to relate all objects in it, whether there was grass the size of a person or a road of size of an airport for carriage. Even if it's some kind of fantasy world, it still has been single scale. Always watch the scale and proportion in your artwork to avoid confusion and misunderstanding. Guys, if you need some individual consultation, subscribe to my Patreon, just choose help and support tier, and you will get an opportunity to ask for some advice about your artwork from me in private chat. This is your chance to improve your artwork with me. When you created the right composition, let's move on to work with light. You should know that light is a more flexible tool, but no less important, and the light can also balance the composition. In general, everything works around composition. You should not perceive all these rules as a clear sequence of stage of work. It doesn't mean that just by completing one step you can move on to the next. Good art is also a balance between all these rules. Conditionally, you can start even from the end or from the middle. It may not matter, but by observing the basic principles, you can complement other actions or cut off unnecessary. This is how the art is born. So light can play a secondary role in composition, where the object is preferred and can play the main role when the composition is built at the expense of the light. Play with light, experimenting. The light should emphasize the detail in the picture. Just putting standard light, it's not suitable for good art. Always try to find some interesting shadows that also may emphasize the details. Blender is very helpful and friendly to do this. With a real-time viewport, you can comfortably work with the scenes so that you can emphasize what you want to show. Try to use different light source, angles of lights, colors, and maybe even combination of different lights. Everything is up to you. You are an artist and only you can choose how your artwork should look. If your Blender scene is slowed down in real time, turn off unnecessary objects and leave some necessary of them. That helps you to find interesting line faster, but don't forget to keep on the composition in mind while you're doing so. Then you can open the whole scene to viewing. In the end, everything needs to be balanced. Maintaining balance is the way to achieve cool art. You have to understand that just throwing some object into the scene is not art. It's just a bunch of objects chaotically wrapped around the scene. Art is to create an organic composition of the chaos of this object. Have you ever seen the art of balance in stone? Your art should also hold tight. Everything should be organically balanced and there is nothing unnecessary. Cut everything out, don't be afraid to remove and redo something. Adopt everything you do, there is always a way to do better. Do not stop at the first version, save it and try to see what else can be done. Comparing all the options in the overall exhibition, you can find the cooler options. The main thing is to take your time, the art does not tolerate haste. Leave the artwork done for today and come back tomorrow, looking with a fresh eye and keep working. But another main thing is to stop at the right time and not to do too much. Not doing too much is a skill that comes with experience as feeling when need to stop. Subscribe to my channel, here I'll share my experience with you. Also, do not forget about my Patreon, where you may download my Blender resources and get support on your way to good art. See you in the next video.